Добрий вечір. Я почну українською, хоч в нас сьогодні буде англомовна панель, в зв'язку з тим, що в нас є багато гостей, доповідачів з-за кордону. Я рада вас всіх тут вітати від імені Львівської бізнес-школи Українського католицького університету і Центру сімейного бізнесу. Ми насправді дуже давно чекали такої нагоди мати... в нас якась була така пауза, знаєте, в активностях Центру сімейного бізнесу, в нас не було якихось добрих ідей, добрих нагод, і от зараз завдяки нашому партнеру GIZ, які нас підтримали, наші ці ініціативи і наше бажання краще досліджувати і розвивати сімейний бізнес в Україні, ми маємо цю конференцію, яка стартує сьогодні. З дискусії в цьому місці ми подумали, що сімейний бізнес – це не так просто скучно, і треба щось трошки зробити таке цікавіше. Сподіваюсь, ви теж прийдете завтра на продовження, до нас вже в УКУ, в центр Шептицького. А сьогодні дискусія є присвячена питанням відповідальності сімейного бізнесу. Таким питанням, чи дійсно сімейний бізнес відповідальний апріорі, чи ні, від чого це залежить. And now I will switch into English, as we have, an English panel discussion. I just welcomed, all of our guests. And I will start with introducing the panelists we have tonight. And then we will start a discussion, and definitely I will pass the microphone to you at the end so that you can ask your questions. So, and maybe I will move as you sit. So I will start with Rania. Rania is the director of Family Business Center in EDIC Business School in France. They are, a well-known family business center. They do a lot of work in that sphere. And she is also associate professor of management at EDIC Business School. Later we have Professor Luigi Troiani. He is professor of international relations in European History and Politics and Pontifical University St. Thomas in Rome. And he is also a consultant to a lot of businesses, including family businesses. Then we have Dr. Fabian Bernard, who is the colleague of Rania in EDIC, in Family Business Center of EDIC Business School. And so he's of German origin, and he is also you also work in Mannheim, from time to time as visiting professor in Mannheim University.
That's my origin.
Great, and then we have the representative of Ukrainian business, Alina Kachurovska. I hope a lot of you know the brand. So she's the co-founder, co-owner, and CEO of the family company producing shoes and bags. And then we have Suzanne, who is, the second generation, Suzanne Lebrumen, who is the second generation owner of the family big media holding of which is family owned, founded by her father. And so she's 1 year. Since 1 year, she is also in charge of the family business, and I'm sure she has a lot to share with us. And so I will start, our panel discussion is called, the whole conference, responsibility across generations. And this panel discussion is dedicated to the topics of responsibility of family companies. And maybe I will start with the question, with the definition. What is responsibility at all? What do we mean here by responsibility, no matter of, what companies are involved? And maybe I will pass the word to Rania, because I know she prepared on this question.
Thank you. I am glad, first of all, to be here. It's my first time in Ukraine. And I look forward to today and tomorrow to interact with family businesses around very important topic, which is responsibility. So as you just said, I prepared the topic, but it's based on the academic point of view. So what is responsibility? If you look at the Latin root of the word, we can tell that responsibility is about engaging in an ongoing commitment to the common good. And it also relates to ethical decisions. And, you know, in Aristotle's point of view, when we talk about ethical decisions, it's not only about abiding by the norms, the existing principles or norms, but also taking into account the current condition, whether psychological or social. Now, what is interesting when we bring this concept to the family business is that it becomes more complex, because in a family business, we have different systems interacting together. So it's about, first of all, managerial responsibility, which relates to the business. Then it comes to the family responsibility, which relates to the family. It is also the ownership responsibility, and last but not least, the social responsibility. Globally speaking, and I'm here quoting researchers who looked at that concept in a family business and entrepreneurial perspective. So those researchers, Beaufort and Murray, say that before corporate responsibility had a name, theology was already informing the thinking of entrepreneurs. What does this mean? Today, we hear a lot about corporate social responsibility. And corporate social responsibility relates to environmental and social issues that are being taken into account in the objectives of organizations. What is interesting to say is that family businesses used since a very long time to engage in corporate social responsibility practices, but under a different name, which is paternalism. Okay? But the concept was not put forward as such, let's say in academia at least. In the 70s, one of the Nobel Prize winners, which is Milton Friedman, he's an economist, was asked, what is the social responsibility of businesses? And his answer could be surprising today. He said that the social responsibility of businesses is to make profits for the shareholders. So today we know that making profits for the shareholders stands for economic goals, and that family businesses are much more engaged in, you know, looking after the communities and the society and the employees, you know, when thinking about, you know, developing and growing the business. So to summarize and to put it in a nutshell, when we talk about responsibility in family businesses, again, we need to think about responsibility towards the family, towards all the stakeholders actually, the family, the ownership, the management, and the social and communities at large. And it's really about being actively committed. So it's an active commitment of the family members towards those different systems. It's a long-term commitment which translates into behavior. And that's my presentation about that topic.
Thank you, Rania. And maybe, you know, I will move forward with the question, you know, are family businesses responsible per se? I mean, just because, you know, they're family owned, they are much more looking into a long-term development, or not? And, you know, what influences their responsibility and how responsible they are? Maybe I would, you know, ask you.
Oh, okay, that was spontaneous. Thank you for having me, first of all. And I'm giving here my spontaneous answer because I think I agree very much with Rania says. And I'm sure theory is very right, that there's this long-term orientation, that there's continuous commitment to the next generation. But I want to bring another point because I also work with lots of family businesses. And what I also see there, and I'm from Germany, we have lots of mid-sized companies, the German Mittelstand, and I will talk about it tomorrow. So these mid-sized companies, I talk with them, and they are all over Germany, not only in the big capitals. And interestingly to me is they say, well, yes, we are maybe more corporate social responsibility oriented, but we are also doing it for our own interest. And the owners, they usually explain me, you know, Fabian, we are producing here for a local market. We have our production right in the backyard. Of course we pollute less because we live here in this community and accordingly we pollute less. If I invest my money in Bangladesh, I don't care if there's pollution or not. So just this local environment makes them maybe more social responsible and environmental friendly. Same with the employees. If you live in a small community in Germany, it's really difficult to attract employees with a good background, with a good know-how and highly educated. For them, of course, it's much more attractive to live in Berlin, Munich, or Hamburg. Getting them on the countryside to work for them is, well, for many, especially in the high-tech industry or innovative companies, quite a challenge. And of course, they treat them better, but this is maybe also driven by a self-interest to have and keep these people in their local communities. And accordingly, they do other things. They sponsor the local football club, things that from the outside perspective might look more corporate social responsibility, but also driven by self-interest.
Does anyone want to add on that? I mean, on the responsibility of family companies as such? Then maybe, you know, I know Alina is she writes a lot and speaks a lot about responsibility of of her company, especially if we take other stakeholders, not, you know, external ones, but internal, like, you know, family and employees. Maybe you could add a bit, you know, on the specificities of your company towards, you know, in terms of responsibility towards different stakeholders.
Англійською, так? Окей. Я тут же хотіла. Всім доброго вечора. І зараз я маленький вступ зроблю українською. Да, всі розслабляться, трошки послухають українською. Тому що насправді тема дуже широка і хочеться сказати дуже багато всього саме про відповідальність. Реально слово відповідальність – це, мабуть, слово нашої компанії в 2019 році. І на цьому моменті, да, я перехожу на англійську. Окей. So I will repeat for our guests that responsibility, I think this is the word of our company for 2019, responsibility. And I have a lot what to say about this. I think that responsibility should be very strong not only in a family-owned company but in all companies in the world, because we all live in one world. We do not have another one to live. But maybe these small and medium family companies, they can really show the world to another companies that such things that are very important for families. And one of these things is love. I will talk about love. They can really change the world, and that love and business, it's not separate things. They can coexist. And they can give fantastic results of responsibility and of our attitude to our planet, to our country, to our neighborhoods, and so on. And I would also like to tell about two big world trends, huge trends. One of them is globalization, and another one is craftsmanship. And I think that, so 2 days ago, I asked all of my friends, how do you think what can be Ukrainian? I will ask Roxolana. Divo, англійською. What can be Ukrainian economical miracle? How do you think? The answers. I think that small and medium entrepreneurs are Ukrainian economical miracle that can definitely change the face of Ukraine on the world area. And the family business is a big, huge part of these small and medium entrepreneurships. And they really can change our country, and I truly believe in it. And so this trend of globalization and craftsmanship, globalization, it means what just my colleague told Fabian, that these small and medium businesses, family businesses, they work in small communities as a rule. So we have a factory in Zhytomyr. We have 90 workers. And I'm very proud because I know that for the past 5 years, we as a company made some changes in my native town, first of all. and the town is changing very fast and in a very good way. And I feel proud that we as a company also have an attitude to all these changes. Also, we've made, for example, a social collaboration with a foundation, and I will show you the result. It is about responsibility. If you know such a man, a very important man in Ukrainian history, Bogdan Havrilishin, he has, unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago. I am happy to know him personally, and we made a pair of shoes for him, of course. And so he has a foundation. In 2014, he wrote a declaration of human obligations. And there are 15 statements. What we did as a company, we decided to make a capsule, a collection, and we put these 15, I will show you. So what we did, we took these 15 statements, we put them on the strap bags, and we sold out everything, and we donated 20% from all the sales to the foundation. And this donation went to the educational program, YAS Changes Ukraine. It is already going on in 10 cities of Ukraine. So this is just a direct example how family companies can be attached to responsibility. So this is my point of view.
There's one more microphone there. Suzanne, maybe, yeah. Maybe I will address you, you know, maybe you could tell a bit more about your company, you know, because, you know, people don't know your company so well here, and it's impressive how it looks like, and maybe, you know, some of your ideas of the responsibility of family companies in Switzerland on the example of yours.
Okay, we have a media house, we have 5 daily newspapers, and we have a TV station, and a radio station, and new platforms, and the marketing and communication agency called Viaduct. And in Switzerland we have a consolidation process in media. We have one big houses like Tamedia and NZZ, and they make apart Switzerland in two parts. And I think our responsibility is that the media, it will be independent and free in Switzerland, and that we will run by our family.
Luigi, maybe, you know, to sum up with the, you know, theoretical statements, what do you think of, you know, responsibility of family companies as such?
Well, first of all, really thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be in this town. The word responsibility, in my opinion, could be analyzed in many ways, but I would like to underline 2 aspects of the word and all the concepts which may come from. First of all, it's evident that response is part of the word, so we have to give an answer to certain needs. The other aspect is that the fact that you have to give answers implies that there are others in front of you. So responsibility, of course, every one of us is responsible on himself, on his life, for instance. But the concept of giving response pretends others. And here comes the question of company and family. Family is a matter of responsibilities. Fathers, sons, mothers, sons, marriages, responsibility among everyone who practices a bit families knows that responsibility is #1 question. And one of the keys of the doors to start crisis in a family is precisely, starts with you have no responsibility, or all responsibilities are upon me. This is typical of how things starts being a problem in the family. So business, society, family, state, local community, region, towns, all those inner circles or circles becoming more and more bigger have to do with responsibility. We cannot escape from responsibility. This is what I'm trying to tell you, because we practice life, and life is full of answers, questions, and demands, and you have to respond. We have to respond. What is come from this concept I am trying to translate to you? That when we have to give responses or to respond or take responsibilities on our shoulders, many situations come. For instance, big difference comes from short, medium, and long-term responsibilities. Let's take our beloved governments. They make debts. All our governments make debts, especially the one of my country. Well, this is to give an answer to present-time problems and is an act of irresponsibility towards future generations. No way that the debts have to be paid. Fathers accumulate debts. Sons have to pay them, or nephew, or whatever. An example of a responsibility in a positive way. Social responsibility has been recalled already. Yes, of course. Responsibility towards the shareholders. People give you money, and they give you money because they want that you, the CEO, makes money to distribute to them. And you are responsible for making money. Then, of course, come the ones who didn't give money to you. They have no share. We call them stakeholders. They have some correct pretensions. And the company has to respond also to their needs and demands. In medium terms, once again, you may, for instance, destroy an environment because you have an activity which doesn't take care of environment. Future generations will pay for that because they will not have any more the environment you are destroying. And again, the concept of a company in this case has to take into account not only the short term, not even the medium, in this very case, the long term is the key to understand how you have to deal with that. Most of the time we used to say that humans, or humankind, companies and governments are an expression of humankind, are stimulated to act from two stimulus. Let's go in this way. One is passions, ideas, ideologies, interest. And the other is interest. Interest is part of passions, part of rationality. Because to beg for money or to search for money is also a passion and is also a rational activity. How much we have to use passion and how much we have to use rationality when we do business? Of course, family is founded on passions, on love. Even businesses sometimes are built on love. Business comes from interest. Then, of course, you may have passions, you may have love for humankind, for yourself, but fundamentally, economy has explained Adam Smith, the Adam of economy, came from interest. How may we harmonize interest and ethics, has been recalled ethics? I wish to be very cynical on that. Businesses will be interested in ethics when they understand that they may make more money than they do businesses without ethics. And it is like this. Because even now they are appearing also forecasts or analysis on how companies with no social responsibility or with no care about future act, and the other companies. And finally, we are discovering that to be responsible, to strive for sustainability, is not only an ethical mandament, it's an economic mandament. It pays. It pays dividends.
Thank you. And so then my next question would be correct to say that family businesses are more responsible, more ethical than, corporations, just because, they are focused on the next generations? Normally, I think Rania has an answer, no?
Well, there's no consensus regarding the answer to the question, but I like what Milton Friedman again said. Corporations are virtual and only human beings can be held responsible. So when we think about family businesses, research shows that they are more socially responsible. Still, some research shows that they are less responsible. And one of the keys, regarding that confusion may lie in the fact that there are two types of responsibilities: the explicit one and the implicit one. So when research is done, researchers look into the formal practices in place. And oftentimes, and I talk especially in France, where I am based, privacy is very important for family businesses. Family businesses do not like to disclose openly, their philanthropic activity or their commitment to the communities. So in that sense, if they are surveyed, those social responsibility practices are not put forward. So that can be one explanation. Another explanation is the fact that family businesses do not represent a homogeneous group. They are heterogeneous. So some of them are more or less responsible to different extents. So mainly, if we again look at research, there are different types of businesses. There are the classic businesses, so referring to what you just said, those who would, question the interest behind the social responsibility. Why shall I be socially responsible? It's more a cost than a benefit. It will reduce my profits. I'm not going to do that. That's like the classic view. There are those which are labeled as socioeconomic businesses. Those who know that being socially responsible incurs some costs, but they are still willing to engage in these practices because they think that there might be some economic benefits. Like, for example, let's be kind to our employees because they will be more committed, and this will be helpful for us and our performance will increase. Or let's be nice to our communities will be our first customer in the region, so it will bring some benefits back. And there are the ones which are called the philanthropic businesses, which actually know that the practices might be at cost, but they are willing still to engage just for the common good, for the ethics they have, the values they have as well. So it's very important when we think about family businesses to consider the fact that they are not all alike, they might be different, and there are examples of family businesses which are not socially responsible. And one of the latest scandals in the US, at least, with Purdue Pharma, which is a large pharmaceutical company with the Sackler family, which was very much engaged in philanthropy. The family was sitting on the boards of the largest museums in the UK, in the US, and the scandal, shows that they were selling, opioids, which, were very addictive, and, there are hundreds, thousands of patients, around in the US mainly, who died or have health issues because of that. So keeping in mind, family businesses are not all alike,
Thank you. Maybe somebody wants to add on that? No. You?
I think that I can add only one thing, one statement. I think that in very nearest future, there will be no place in the world for not socially responsible companies and businesses at all. If in the nearest future your company will be not social responsible, you will not exist in this business world. This is my thoughts.
Well, if I just can, I will just bring in one additional thought, and that is, I think I'm not only located between these extreme opinions, but I'm also kind of in the middle. I think when we talk about social responsibility, I think we should also mention family values. And I believe that family values can be a big driver for what is happening in the business actually. And you have some businesses who have these strong values. Maybe they don't communicate it very well. Maybe they don't want to communicate it because they want to be secretive. And actually research shows that those that do not communicate it very well are actually people who do very much things for corporate social responsibility. And I think it is essential, and that is one of the strengths in my opinion for family businesses, that these values from the family impact the business, and the long-term perspective and the transmission to the next generation of the values is one of the big assets I think where family businesses can gain and can go this direction. And when we see the younger generations, we see it on Fridays for Future nowadays. If you watch the news, the younger generation needs to be very much aware of these values, and they can be a strong anchor for many family businesses.
Yes, I would like to get back to the quotation of Adam Smith, which I recall. Adam Smith was an ethical philosopher. He was not an economist at the beginning, not only an economist. But he writes that without its own interest, the businessman would not sacrifice himself for not using his money, etc. So interest is a key question in the business life and in family business life. How can we rejoin interest with social responsibility, sustainability, and so on and so forth? We are living in a market economy. If the market, public opinion, people, forces businesses to build, to take care of, they will do it, because otherwise they will not sell. It's evident. There are a lot of examples of that. In Italy, not only in Italy, but I have an example from Italy. But there is now a question, a new question is coming on this one, is called private welfare. It means the state has no more enough money to guarantee the welfare. Companies have to deal with the welfare for the workers, as they did at the beginning of capitalism, at the end of Giugiaro, where capitalism was a bit human. They are spending even 20, 25, 30% of the budget for private welfare. The state gratifies them with tax exemptions, etc., and it works. When you go to check the productivity of the workers of the companies where private welfare is working, they produce between 20 and 30% more than the other companies with no private welfare. Don't ask me how it happened, but these are numbers. You raise a question, a kind of versus private business versus corporations. If you may show, Salomia, if you may show my first slides. No? What I say is that family businesses, Italian family businesses are longevity, a characteristic of coming from more than 1,000 years. Barone Ricasoli is why Fonderia Pontificia, they do chimes for the Pope, etc. By the way, we have family businesses in Italy coming from 1,000 years. The 5 of the 10 oldest family businesses in the world are Italians. So imagine how much we know about family businesses. But most of our family businesses are also corporations. All of you know Agnelli family because of Juventus Club, not because of the Fiat. And this is a family business. Benetton is a family business. There are many. If we go to the other, okay, So there is no obligation of having corporations and family business versus one. And it's very interesting phenomenon. But having said that, the capital of those corporations belong also to the market. So the junction between market or individuals and family businesses is very interesting, and they generate corporation.
Okay, thank you. So being responsible is rather profitable, yes? I mean, to a certain extent we can sum up this. So, and maybe we also touched upon the transmission of these values across the generations, yes, of the family. You know, the founder has something in mind when, you know, building the company, has certain values. How do you transmit, you know, this spirit of the family company throughout generations? Suzanne, maybe you have what to add. I mean, you know, in Ukraine, we don't know much about transition. We are just, you know, the second generation is only approaching. And, you know, and you already are the second generation. So how is it in your family, you know, how do you transmit, you know, the values, the spirit of the company, you know?
It's a difficult question because we are in this process right now. And I think one of the mechanisms is to make like a constitution of family, like you discuss together. You make. I want to make twice a year. I want to make a workshop with the family with an agenda where it's written how runs the company and what are the traditions and the values in our company. But we have to build up this, we have to evolve. I am in the middle of the process and I don't know if it's work. I want to hear the experts if this work or is it a stupid idea.
No, let's pass the word to them. They know much more about this.
Well, I just give my humble opinion, and from my experience, what I've seen, that this is one way, institutionalization of this process. On the other side, what I often see is that this is a process that starts from early on. Young children of family businesses, they are introduced to the business automatically, very implicitly. For example, I mean, for those of you who have a family business, it's oftentimes at the dinner table that we talk about business. You can't separate it. And of course, if you as a small child sitting there, you learn about it. Also, when you're walking through the factory or the manufacturing plant, you gain a lot of what is called tacit knowledge. You don't know exactly what it is, but you soak it in. You learn it in your blood. And that is something that gives the next generation automatically a big advantage as any external CEO could ever get, based on this tacit knowledge. Having said this, it also helps, of course, to get the outside perspective by gaining some experience outside for the next generation, to see other values, to build their own individualized belief system and own values and goals in life. So it's a balance, of course. It's important to be socialized in a business, but nevertheless, for the future innovation, an outside perspective is also very important. And I can elaborate on this topic for very, very long, but I'll pass on because I know you want to say something too.
The value, by definition, is something which is fixed by the demand and offer. It means that values are not eternal. What could be good for one generation could be not good for the following generation. This is one of the problems of family businesses. What my sons and daughters will do, of my sacrifices, let's call it this way. Because it happens that sons and daughters, this has been studied a lot by the Chamber of Commerce training of Milan, training institution, which is called Formaper, and they did a lot of study on this subject, and it came, listen, it's unbelievable maybe to your ears, because you are probably at the beginning of the story, but many fathers declare that they prefer to sell the business more than to give to their unfortunate, let's call it, the children, because they respected employees and people who work with them, and they didn't want to ruin them. This was the most of the time the reason behind this behavior. This is on value. Now, if you ask me what I think on that, trust is fundamental. In a family, often there is trust. It happens that there is no trust. And trust is the basic for continuing the business, for transmitting to the future, etc. Competencies are needed, and conflict of competencies are very familiar with family businesses because often young people go to university, fathers didn't, at least the elders, and conflicts comes on who is the best in family businesses. Local community, I may tell you a short story, it could be long, but I make it short. In 1989, long time ago, I was sent to Moscow to create the International Center for Small and Medium Enterprises. Gorbachev was still in power, he visited Italy, and he came with this unfortunate idea to send someone to Moscow to set up this institution with Lomonosov University. Maybe some of you are familiar with the Lomonosov University. We created the center. Then I invited the professors and others to come to Italy to understand what is a family businesses. And I was not astonished, but what came from was that when they saw that the entrepreneur was the first to go to the work and the last to leave, and that he took care of employees, that he was responsible with the local priest or local community, the answer was very clear. What is that? I don't want to be an entrepreneur. This is very bad. So it's true what I'm telling you, and it's fully understandable because the idea of being exploiting someone was a key in that economy system. So they couldn't understand that the capitalist was taking responsibility. Openness to the world is another recipe. In family businesses, as corporations, has to be open to the world. And look to the future, saving money, making investments, and have money for bad times, which always comes, unfortunately.
Rania, could you please also, add a bit about the transmission?
Yes, well, I will add an optimistic note, actually, building on what Elena said, and Susan as well. The next generation today, whether part of a family business or not, is very much aware of the social and environmental issues and very much oriented, actually, to the social responsibility. So my research and the family business shows that the next generation members actually are interested in engaging in entrepreneurial ventures which introduce social innovations. So what is a social innovation? So it's a process designed to meet social needs, which is inclusive of all stakeholders and which is collective. And the profit is not, the sole objective. In other words, the next generation in family businesses is interested in either introducing social innovations within the family business or starting their own business by engaging in such an innovation. And through this, they are able to create a legitimacy in front of all the stakeholders and contribute to a successful succession process. So that's one way the next generation actually can, enact the social responsibility. And, Fabian mentioned the values, and Luigi also, you touch upon the values. Values are key, but values are not static. Values evolve. The meaning of values evolve. And to go back to Susan, who mentioned the family constitution, for example, that's a very interesting exercise for family business members. Actually, they would meet together discuss their history, what are the values of the different generations, try to find a common ground. And through this exercise, which researchers like to call as part of the family governance processes, this exercise helps binding the family together, you know, see clearly the values, and oftentimes social values are in there, of course, and, you know, better have, you know, craft a vision, let's say, for the future. So let's keep in mind, you know, that there is hope, and yeah, the next generation is there to take the challenge of social responsibility.
Thank you. So I think that was really a nice, you know, closure. You linked so nice, you know, the last question and the starting point of our discussion. Дякую всім за увагу. Дякую, що прийшли.